You guys give it up good and loud for my man Jeff Borysiewicz from Corona Cigar Company.
Hey! What's up, Jeff?
My man. What is going on?
Man, we're going quick. We haven't even done a mic test or anything. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good, man. We get going.
Okay, well, thanks for having me on the show.
Well, buddy, thanks for coming. Always good seeing you. Let's do Embers Only.
Now, it's time to explore the world of cigars, spirits, and other things that make life worth living. This is Embers Only.
What's it, a grown man get his ass kicked by a box of cigars? It's kind of fun. Welcome to Embers Only, brought to you by our friends over at Corona Cigar Company. 3 of these wonderful locations here in Central Florida to serve you. Over in Tampa, and I hear maybe a new location coming soon, but also able to serve you always online at coronacigar.com. Any of these deals that you hear us talk about at all times, they will gladly ship anywhere on planet Earth for you. And this week's cigar is an awesome cigar. But first things first, these locations, it's important to know this. Not only do you get the best selection of premium cigars in Central Florida by a million, not only do you get that, you also get wonderful people to help you choose a cigar. Because one of the things that gets a little weird, Jeff, is people get intimidated by this lifestyle. They come in and they believe, well, all these guys are going to be seasoned smokers, they're going to look down their nose at me, and I'm going to buy a simple cigar, and they're going to think I'm some corny noob. That does not happen. As a matter of fact, it's the exact opposite. The people who work at these stores love it when new people come in. They love to show their knowledge. They love to get you set up with something nice that you're going to enjoy. They want you to come back.
I'm glad you hit on that because, when people are nervous about, if you haven't been to Corona Cigar before, when you walk in, it's like the size of like a Walgreens type of thing. And so imagine instead of an aisle having candy and household items and aspirin and all that, every single aisle is premium cigars. So a lot of people walk in, they get blown away. But listen, you come in, if you don't know anything about cigars, it doesn't matter. Our staff loves it because it's our chance to tell the story and get you. There's so much information, and I tell you, people really like it, and that's why people become enthusiasts because there's so much behind it. So we love it. If you've never had a cigar before, come in Corona Cigar. Our guys will literally take you by the hand and within a couple months, you'd be an expert.
I truthfully think that's where you guys shine. I really do. I mean, the stores are great. The lounges are great. There's no question. They sell themselves, but really it's your staff that really makes it so much more of a great experience.
Listen, we all have our first cigar. Remember the first time I had a cigar? I didn't know anything about cigars. So it's, we all start somewhere, and it's a journey. Here I've been doing it for, 26 years now, 27 years. And, every day there's still new stuff like we're going to talk about today.
That's right. And I love that. But let's talk about this new one, this cigar of the week is our Acid Subculture Beach. Now, these are really unique cigars. It's weird because when Acid, I remember having my first Acid cigar, and then one of the cigar people was like, oh, you don't smoke Acid cigars. And then you start realizing they're made by a very reputable company, one of the most reputable companies, and they're fun. It's called Subculture for a reason. These are really mild cigars, hinted with flavors. They have a tiny sweet wrapper, but not too sweet. I think that's where they do a really good work there. They don't make it so cloyingly sweet that you can't enjoy it, but it's a damn good smoke.
Yeah, so let me tell you first of all, folks that don't know anything about cigars, when we say acid cigars, there's no acid in them, all right? So these things are long filler handmade cigars, so they're not going to send you on a trip or anything like that.
Bummer, man.
Yeah, okay. But they're infused with some, and it's hard to even say it's flavoring, but it's more of almost like if it was seasoning.
Like an herbal thing, like almost patchouli-esque kind of.
Correct. So when you smell it, if you like the way the cigar smells, then buy it and light it up. If you don't like the way it smells, then the cigar's not for you because it's a different type of cigar. But it's a lot of people, it's their first cigar because it's mild, it's got a hint of sweetness to it, and it's got a flavor that's that really it's just appealing to a lot of people, and they smell good too. When they're burning it,
they smell wonderful.
Smells really nice. So real quick, Subculture Studios on the beach. So Acid cigars are our international brand sold by a lot of different stores across the country. But Subculture Studios, the Acid Beach, is unique just for Corona Cigar. It's exclusive to us. The only place you can buy it is Corona Cigar. The founders of that company, Jonathan Drew and Marvin Samuel, great friends of mine. We kind of started in business together at the same time.
Right.
So with the Acid Beach, get a Corona Cigar. One of our best-selling cigars, too, by the way.
And they have a series of these. So not only can you get them in different flavors, different sizes as well. I know that my wife's first cigar was an Acid, and she absolutely fell in love with them immediately. That's
probably the Blondie, because the Blondie is one of the best sellers because it's a smaller cigar.
Yep.
It's not intimidating. A lot of times people are intimidated by a larger cigar, but the Blondie is one that's a very smaller cigar. But the thing is, once you've had a Blondie, you're like usually ready to step up to like a Cuba or a cigar that's got a full size to it.
Absolutely. But let me tell you, these things are only $138.95 per box, $6.50 a piece. But if you buy them by the box, they're under $6. It only comes into like $5.85 or something like that. So not only you get a great deal and a wonderful smoke.
Yeah. So Jim, a lot of times what people don't realize is that there's two prices on cigars. When you buy them by the single stick, it's like buying like a single bottle of wine. When you buy a box of them, or it'll be like buying a case of wine. So at Corona Cigar, we have box discounts. So when you're walking down the aisle and you look at the price, you can see the box price, and you save quite a bit. Minimum 10%, sometimes up to 30 or 40% when you buy by the box.
Yeah, we had a deal just I think last month where the savings was like 38% off of it. I actually couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
All right, so you've been absolutely smiling and freaking out since you walked in here. And the last time you did this, you introduced the 20 Acre Farm series, which is genuinely, to this day, I think my favorite in-house cigar of all time. And I know that it has won a ton of awards, and for a great reason. It is such a perfectly balanced cigar. But when you walk in today, and I noticed on Facebook yesterday, a buddy of ours, Thomas, who runs Pig Floyd's, about to open up his new store called Pigza. You dropped by because you guys are both, Thomas is a big enthusiast as well, and you gave him this new Honduran cigar, and I didn't recognize the wrapper. I know every in-house cigar, Corona cigar wrapper, and I didn't realize that label, that blue, was new. And then you had this big old smile, and then you come in this morning. So what do you got here, man? You're obviously very excited about this.
Well, I'm excited because this, first off, it is something new. But this cigar, it's made in a small city in Honduras, in a remote part of the country. Now, it's made in Copan. So Copan is south of a city called San Pedro Sula. Now, listen, San Pedro Sula is the murder capital of the world, all right?
Okay.
I never went there for a reason because I was always worried about getting, like, kidnapped or something, right? So, anyway.
That's a legit reason.
Seriously. So, you talk MS-13 is right over that area right there. So, it's no joke. So, anyway. So, a friend of mine in the cigar business, a company called Altadis, which makes Monte Cristo, Chapman, and Romeo. Big company, right? Yes. He's like, Jeff, you got to come to our factory in Honduras. I said, Tim, I'll go with you as long as you come with me. All right? So, and he's my age, too. So, we're like these old goats that are running around. Anyway, we kind of stand out like a sore thumb when you go to those countries. So anyway, this was before COVID. So we started working on a cigar. The thing is, this factory is really isolated. It's in a very remote area, but it's got great tobacco. And because they're isolated, no one ever visits them, by the way. So like we come there, they're like throwing a party for us, and everybody was truly happy. Seriously, they were very happy to have visitors. So anyway, so we worked on this blend, and everything stopped because of COVID. So this thing, I'm smiling because it's been like 3.5, 4 years. And finally, this thing's ready. And so we got him in. I literally got him in the store on Friday. So, and I'm super happy the way it turned out because this cigar was designed to be a real mild cigar and flavorful. Sort of like if you ever had like a Monte Cristo Classic or a Monte Cristo White.
Yep.
It's that kind of cigar. So anyway, the packaging turned out great. The blend, the cigar tobacco blend turned out amazing. So yeah, I'm happy. So I brought this for us to celebrate.
That's awesome.
So when you're done with the show today on the ride home, you and the crew, I brought enough for everybody. Everybody can have one of our new Corona Honduran selections for the ride home.
Now this is interesting because a lot of the cigars that you do with private label are Ecuadorian, Dominican. And some Nicaraguan tobacco in there. I mean, why the Honduran thing now? I mean, is it just because of the location, or just?
That's an interesting question, and that's kind of cool because we have some cigars made in Honduras, but they're made in a different part of the country. It's called Don Lee. Don Lee, Honduras is near the border of Nicaragua. This is in a different part of the country, and like I said, I've never even been to that factory for those reasons. It's just something that's taken a long time, and there's more, let's call it more resources in Nicaragua and Dominican Republic.
Okay.
Whereas this one it's a little more of a journey, and let's say I was a little hesitant to be out there. So anyway, I'm happy as a lark.
And it's called the Honduran Selection.
Yeah,
by
Corona Honduran
Cigar?
Selection, and it says right under too, Florida Copan, because that's the name of the factory.
Got it.
And Copan is the actual the city that it's made in. There's only about 70,000 people, but believe it or not, in Copan, this is an ancient civilization in that area. Like if you look up Copan, there's ruins and stuff of like old pyramids. And,
oh yeah.
Yeah, this is like real old ancient civilization of Central America there. So it's pretty cool. cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I would love to go down. I mean, it's just so dangerous, man. You get so freaked out about that. You read the news, it just seems like, everywhere you go in Central and South America, you just do that little search beforehand, see what the State Department says.
Yeah.
And then you move that way.
Well, you make sure that there's some dudes in a pickup truck in front and behind you and do a little convoy. But
here with Jeff Borysiewicz, he owns Corona Cigar Company. Of course, the 3 lounges here in Central Florida, Heathrow, downtown, Sand Lake. You can always find them online. Over in Tampa, have a lounge there. I heard a rumor.
No rumor. We're building one in Sarasota. The light, I see the light at the end of this tunnel. Let me tell you, you guys, by the way, we're on the radio, so you guys can't see this, but these guys have a fancy new studio here. It's like really nice. And you guys are saying it's taken years to get it done.
Yeah.
Our store in Sarasota took years to get done, too. So, with COVID, you kidding me?
Anything that takes, I didn't know if it was permitting, because some people are kind of freaked out about
all of that stuff. You had the permits to it, the thing. Anything, if it took a year, now it takes 2. And twice the money, by the way. But anyway.
And the other thing, Jeff, we were just talking right before you came on the air. Deb was telling me about this story, and I know years ago you guys dealt with legislation that you guys, the other thing that people don't realize about this business, it's so weird. You would just think to yourself, well, adults are adults. They can go adult. They can buy a cigar. They can smoke a cigar and enjoy themselves. No differently than they can pile a pack of cigarettes into their mouth every day and do that, right? You should be able to do that. But is it true? It's a constant fight with legislation with people trying to shut this business down for health reasons some reason?
It's crazy. Listen, so anybody's been to Corona Cigar, we've got our 4, soon-to-be 5 locations that are open with bar and outside seating and cigars. Everybody's hanging out, smoking cigars, talking to each other. Do you know in North Dakota it was illegal just until this week to do what we do? They just passed, they had to pass a law in order to allow a cigar bar. There's still a lot of different states out there. You cannot have a Corona cigar. It's illegal to do what we do. So anyway, that's why. And so what we have to do is constantly fight. I hate to use the word fight, but we have to constantly battle these things just for the ability to stay in business. So it's part of the, listen, it's part of the deal. If you're going to have a cigar store,
that's right.
If you're going to have a gun shop, be ready to deal with a lot of political blowback. It's part of the deal.
What a great attitude, though, because a lot of people don't look at it like that. A lot of people don't really feel it like that, and it eats them alive. I've seen it do it. I've seen people get these weird kind of fights like that, and it winds up consuming their life. I did want to spend a few minutes on the liquor that you have in these special blends. Again, just today, telling the story of how awesome it was, I guess 4, 5, 6 years ago when we first started our relationship like we have now. I was in your office. I think you had somebody come in from either Beam or Makers or something like that. They had these old trunks, and then those trunks are like hundreds of these little bottles of whiskey, and each one of those bottles represented a barrel of whiskey that was in the warehouse. And they sat there with this GD chemistry set, and they built bottles of whiskey blended perfectly how you wanted it. Jeff looks at me and goes, "What's your daughter's birthday?" And I spent my daughter's birthdays out, and we went to those bottles, and he blended it up, and we used part of that recipe for one of those damn bottles. How did that whole thing start? That is the most unique thing I think I've ever heard in my life.
So in 2008, it's interesting. Bourbon was not what it is today.
You bet your ass it was. Remember, it was Scotch.
Yeah, no, actually, let me tell you what it was. So when we opened our downtown store, let's rewind to what was in 2008 downtown. Everybody was pouring flavored vodka.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody had flavored vodka. And not just one flavor. We're talking like 50 freaking flavors.
Yeah.
And then the problem is, not only all these different flavors, but then there's like 15, 20 different companies, right? And so they're all attacking you, saying, hey, can you take this on and that on, that on? And so I'm like, listen, guys, there's only like 4 liquor distributors, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, listen, don't come in here with your suitcase full of flavored vodka. That's not what we do. If I want to see Scotch, I want to see cognac, and I want to see bourbon, right? And so at the time, Scotch was actually king and then cognac was too. Louis XIII was doing really good. Yeah. But single malt Scotch, my wife's from Scotland, so she's like the Scotch expert there.
Yeah.
And so single malt Scotch, you'd have all these ranges from 10 years up to 40, 50-year-old whiskeys, different regions and stuff. Bourbon was in its infancy as far as specialty bourbon. They didn't even have a single barrel program at that time. So when believe it or not, our first barrel was from Four Roses. Four Roses was our first single barrel. And I remember when the guy, listen, this is a funny story. If you know anything about bourbon, there's a brand called Pappy Van Winkle. Yeah. Everybody wants it. This stuff sells for like $400, but it's supposed to sell for $400. But at Pappy 23, when you get a bottle, people are selling for $2,000, right? Yeah. So I remember when Zazarak, who owns that brand, presented us Pappy Van Winkle. And I never even heard of it, by the way, because it wasn't a big brand. But I was telling Tanya, I said, listen, this brand's going to sell because it's got an old man on it with a cigar. and it had a year, it had an age statement on
That
it.
is so
So
great.
it had from 10 to 23. So we took it on. But man, that was but listen, that paid dividends for us because I don't know if we got a commercial break here, but just give me the signal. But it paid dividends because the bourbon industry back then didn't get any love, and we gave it love. So that's why they take care of us now.
And bourbons back in the day were like, everybody looked at bourbon as Jim Beam, things like that, and they didn't really have any provenance. And then you started getting into these small batch bourbons, and then the next thing you know, people are like, holy crap, am I going to spend $200 or $300 or $400 on a bottle of 15-year-old Macallan, or am I going to go spend $75 to maybe $85, $95 on a really nice bottle of bourbon before it exploded? Of course, now you can't get near a bottle of Pappy for anything less than $3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah, but also they finally premiumized the brands. So that's when you had your Knob Creek single barrel, your Russell's Reserve. We're actually going to Kentucky tomorrow. So we're going to go.
That Russell's, you should never sleep on the Russells, by the way.
So we're picking barrels of Russell's on Monday.
Buddy,
so,
I'd never heard of it, and you gave me a bottle of that from your provider. That's a damn good whiskey, by the way.
I may have to get a couple barrels because one time we got barrels of. I remember Jimmy Russell was down in our store, and and we picked the barrel. It was so good. And then when the thing came, we don't know how many it will yield. They ship it to us, and it had like 55 bottles in it. And I said, Jimmy, what the hell happened? He goes, I think that was a really good barrel, and I think some of the boys in the warehouse took some for themselves.
Whatever.
So, because normally we get about 150 to 240 bottles in a barrel, but that one, so anyway, we're picking some this weekend, or actually Monday and Tuesday. So,
well, let me give you my choices. We got to get you out of here. If you could go get a bottle of the Angel's Envy that they built. It is genuinely, it's a treat. It is almost like dessert. If you can get a bottle of the Makers they built, again, if you want a balls out whiskey, try that barrel proof Jack Daniels. It's like 120. It'll blow your face off. But if you cut it with a little bit of water, it's wonderful. And the same thing with that barrel proof Knob Creek. All of those are wonderful. You go get any of those from Corona, you will be really happy.
So I want to piggyback real quick on our Makers single barrel select. That uses a unique stave, a combination of staves that when we barrel that back up, no one else in the planet has the stave combination that we use. It's paired. We create it specifically for cigars, by the way. So anytime you get any of our single barrel bourbons, you have to remember there's one guiding factor when we choose it. How does it pair with a cigar? And so it will taste very different than any other single barrels you get at the liquor store.
Buddy, that Makers, I'm telling you, if you were smart, you'd run and grab a bottle now. It's so damn good, and the Envy is so good, and you're so good. Thanks for all your help and support. You're so wonderful. We love having you as part of the program. It is truly a point of pride for us. We really enjoy this relationship.
Well, thank you. And thanks to all the listeners that when you come in the store, tell them that you heard it on the show here, and we love the support from the community. All right, guys?
All right. See you,
That's
Jeff.
awesome.
Yay! That's it. Corona Cigar, coronacigar.com. 3 locations, Heathrow, downtown, and Sand Lake. Always find them online, again, at coronacigar.com. Back in a sec with more of the Jim Colbert Show.